Our next group is Ecoaeris, Quito, Ecuador, Universidad de San Francisco de Quito.
This is all supposed to happen behind the curtain, but we don't have a curtain. Are you all ready? Yeah.
Yes, we're just waiting for her to say the people.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're Team Ecoaeris from Universidad San Francisco de Quito, Ecuador. I'm going to present you our team: Silvia Parra, Natalia Belalcázar, and me, Mateo Privitera. We all three are founders of our company. For us, it's a pleasure to be here and share with you this dream we've had since we were little. I'm honored to turn it over into Silvia, that she's going to tell you more about the whole project.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Silvia Parra. Thank you, Mateo. So in Latin America, it's very common that streets are immersed in this black smog that is produced by all the vehicles, and people is used to this. It's normal for them to breathe this air every single day. But how insane it is to get used to this toxic air. It's just really crazy that people just do not do anything about this. So the problem in Quito, basically, is that the amount of sulfur in diesel exponentially increases the amount of particulate matter that is emitted through these vehicles, through the buses. So the particulate matter is basically a solid particle resulting of the diesel combustion. And people can breathe this, and is really, really bad for their health. So basically the particulate matter is the particle that we're trying to reduce in the emissions of the vehicles. We haven't really realized the short and long terms of this problem, so we are basically trying to find a solution. The carbon trace in Quito is of 5 million tons of CO2 in a population of 2.6 million people, which is equivalent to the 15 million urban households emissions, or the carbon stored by 125 million trees in 10 years. Some data collected from 2011 reveals that 56% of carbon trace come from diesel, from transportation, and only 20% comes from factories. Quito has 450,000 units of vehicles, and if the situation remains as it is right now, in 2050, the temperature is going to be 2.5 above the current. So the annual average consumption of diesel is 80 million gallons, while fuel is 150 million gallons. Vehicles in Quito produce 50% of sulfur dioxide, 75% of nitrogen dioxide, and 90% of carbon dioxide. So I'm going to explain you how our filter works. The solution we created is a filter. Our filter works through the electrostatic principle. It has 3 pieces of isolating ceramic in the middle of the filter and a metal bar. So when the gas are emitted, all the carbon particles, the particulate matter, is ionized to the tube walls. So even though there are some other gases that go through this filter, all the particulate matter gets stuck and is retained. This mechanism works from a connection to a high voltage source, which gives powers to it and is connected to the car battery. Vehicular fleet is of 450,000 cars, of which 2,700 are public transportation, which includes Ecovía, Metrobús, Trolleybus, mainly. There are those types of buses in Ecuador. 7 years ago, the city of Quito created a very similar project to ours. It was a very good filter, a very high quality filter, but the problem with this filter was mainly the business model. Authorities proposed that the bus driver had to pay half of the filter. The filter cost $1,000, and the project failed and didn't last even a month. Our filter, the cost of the filter is $20, and the final price is $45. Our main competition will be the articulated bus. There are these very huge buses that the government is bringing to Ecuador. They are electric buses, so they don't use diesel. They are 2 cabins, but due to the landscape of the city, they're not very helpful because they won't be able to circulate through many streets, and it's very expensive to change the entire buses fleet of Quito. But they would be our first, the main competition. We did a research last year to 500 people, and it revealed that 80% of people consider that the vehicles and transportation is the main polluting reason in the city. 87% consider that the pollution affects their daily life. This means exercising, transporting, walking from place to place. And 74% of the sample consider that they would use Ecoaeris filter in their own cars. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the business model. Our phase 1 would be the testing part. So our university will provide the first 100 filters. They will provide the machinery and everything to start working on the first 100 filters in the university. And this will be very helpful because we will use these filters to present the product to the government and sell them a product that has already been tested before. Phase 2 will be approached directly to the government. We want them to be the first and main client. And because we want them to enforce this idea and this product to the whole public transportation. So basically, they will be our first client. And phase 3, of course, is going abroad, going internationally, especially to Latin America, to other countries such as Colombia or Venezuela, Chile, which we already know they have the same problem in their city. Okay, so our target profit after 5 years is 20% of our sales. We expect sales range to be 3.5 to 4 range. And let's project the sales to 5 years from now. So we're going to sell to 10% of the vehicular fleet in Quito. Our gross margin is 55%. And for year 5 of production, volume is 80,000 units annual run rate.
Okay, these final facts about our project. We're first movers in our field. Therefore, there's no direct competition for us. It is reachable and a profitable business. As Sylvia said, profit will range between $3.5 and $4 million in our 5-year projection. And it is a low cost and highly effective solution for government to improve air pollution in Quito and in many cities in Latin America that are suffering from this problem. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now Natalia is going to show you how the electrostatic principle works in our filter. She's going to turn on the filter, and she's going to create a little bit of smoke. This will be the smog of the car, of the vehicle. And it works with this kind of smoke because there are solid particles as you can see it, so it will work with any kind of smoke. The voltage, the high voltage source is like the battery car. And this is our battery that creates, that converts the high voltage source into the one of, that can electrify the metal bar in order to create. So first of all, before you turn it on, Natalia, you can see the smoke going through the filter. And if we turn it on, you just can't see it anymore because the solid particles are just, they stick in the, now it's turned off, and then you can see it again. And when she turns it on, all the solid particles get ionized to the tube walls, so you can see them. So that's basically the principle that's going to work in our filter. And that's it. Yes, thank you very much. Sorry, just incense, but thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation and especially the smoke signals.
Yeah, let's turn it off and. It's turned off, it's safe.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, how did you get this in the country? Through
This-
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question.
just completely unrelated.
Yeah, we
to-
actually had to call the airline before the flight, and we just had to come early and show them and give them a letter of the university that we
Wow.
were going to a competition. And here they lend us the high voltage source, and we just brought the filter, and it's better.
good. I'm glad that you didn't get arrested by TSA. A question, so could you go back to the competition a little bit? You have identified your primary competitor as the potential bus being brought in by the
Yes.
government. Have you looked at other technologies, filtration technologies that are being used pretty much in the European Union, Asia, everywhere in the world that actually are filters?
Well, yes, actually, in those cases, the filter especially reduces the CO2, and that's not our main concern right now. Our main concern is particulate matter that are the solid particles. And the other filter the government created 7 years ago was a very nice filter because it did reduce all kinds of emission, but it was very expensive. So ours only reduces the particulate matter that is just the black smoke you see on the street.
Okay, that was a great presentation. And I understand your first customer is the government. So could you give me a quick sales pitch on who you're selling to? What would you say? What is the ask, and what are you expecting from me as far as price and how many am I buying and that sort of thing?
Okay. Well, first of all, the government has already been trying to find a solution to this problem. Actually, they have invested a lot of money importing good quality diesel in order to mix them with ours. So the resulting emission is better, but the problem still remains. So you already tried to give us a solution, but it was very expensive. The bus drivers didn't like the solution at all, of course. They don't have that amount of money. The useful life of that filter was 1 month, so it didn't work at all. So what we are what we are offering you is a filter that is very low cost, is very effective, and well, we are working on the university on Ecuador, and we are working on it to find more solutions and improving the filter over and over. We're working with a lot of technical experts of Ecuador to find this solution and to improve the filter in order to work with them in all the public transportation system. So, yeah, basically.
So what does it cost me, and how many do I have to buy, and how long will it last?
Okay, so what it costs you is each filter is $45, and depending on the amount of buses that we're going to try on, first of all, yes, our initial seed funding must be of $2 million, basically, in order to start with the filtering all of the fleet buses of the city. So that's the amount of money it will cost you first.
How much particulate does a single bus produce in a day? And then what is the daily capacity of the filter?
Okay, so the filter reduces 10% of the particulate matter, and the emissions in the buses, they depend on the conditions of each bus and how long does they function during the day. Basically, our filter works on certain conditions, and if you change one of those conditions, the filter will work differently. But with research and the the average is 10% of particulate matter less in the emissions in a day. Thank you.
Have you done any safety testing?
Yeah, well, at the beginning it wasn't very safe because we actually were working on the university in the laboratories, and we spent a lot of time breathing this air, and it passed like 2 hours, and we were kind of sleepy and dizzy, and it was kind of dangerous. And the university said, like, we have to do something about this. You can't work like this. So all the physicists were working with us in an open space. We don't have in Ecuador the machine to measure the particulate matter, so it was very hard for us to measure this, the amount. So we start doing it with weight, basically. So we did a lot of samples in different conditions, and then with the where you weight the very low amount of quantity, we did different tests, and then we could have the answers.
Sorry, what I meant was diesel is not as combustible as gasoline, but you're dealing with electricity. I'm a little nervous about the electricity and the diesel. Is that a concern? Should that be a concern?
No, that shouldn't be a concern. Actually, we've been working already with buses, and we've already put the filter in buses, and we connected with the battery car, and we haven't had any trouble until now. The bus drivers, they are concerned. I mean, they are open to buy the filter and to use the filter only if it doesn't damage their own cars and vehicles. But until now, we haven't had any problem with it.
Is there a daily maintenance requirement? How often will the operator need to maintain?
Yes, well, actually, we are aware that we have to change the filter. Actually, it's one of the good things about our business is that the person who's going to use the filter needs to buy several filters over the year. We're still doing some tests in order to have the right answer of how long does they have to change the filter. But yes, they will have to change it.
What's involved with retrofitting the device on a vehicle?
What's that? Sorry, can you repeat?
What's it cost to install the device on a vehicle?
Okay, so our cost is $20. It is very cheap because we create the battery and the filter itself. So it's for us to create the filter is $20, and over to install it in the car and in the vehicle, it goes to $30, and the final price is $45. This price, we got it because actually we talked to people and talked to the bus drivers, and what they are willing to pay for, after the research we did, what they are willing to pay for something like this is $45. So that's why the project they did before it failed.
Greg asked the question, how much does it cost to get the device on?
$30. Yeah, the government will provide the installation and sorry, I didn't get it.
So you're going to sell this for $45, and so what is your cost of goods sold? What is your margin? How much of material and labor does it cost to actually put it together?
To put together one filter?
Yeah.
Okay, the total cost of it is $20. It includes the battery that costs $9 to do it with all the materials, and the filter itself is $10 with 50 cents. So it all is $20 with 60 cents, and the connections will be provided by the government, and the final price is $45.
I see. And then so how often, so you're not sure how often you need to replace the internal filter, and how much will that cost? The bus driver will have to like pull in
the
and
bus
say.
Drivers just need to change this part because this is not replaceable, and you just buy one of these and that's it. But what is replaceable is this part.
Mm-hmm.
So $10 basically will be the replacement.
Right now, that's not the real size of the filter, of course. This is just a prototype to show you how the electrostatic principle works in the filter. But the prototype that we're going to create with the physicists is depending on the cylinder of the vehicle and it's going to be, of course, way smaller and everything reduced in order to, well, actually, this filter exists and is used in China in big factories, but it has never been created for small cars and small sizes. So that's what we are basically doing right now.
Did I understand you when you said that this reduces the air pollution by 10%?
It reduces 10% of the particulate matter emitted by each car.
So that's not a very big reduction in particulate matter. So is this really that effective?
Actually, it is, because in our city, the biggest problem is the particulate matter, because it's the smog you see and you inhale every single day. So yes, 10% for each bus in the city will be a very big difference to us.
Okay. All right. So have you already talked to bus drivers about the filter, and what exactly did they say?
Actually, it was very interesting, because we've talked to many of them, and some of them are very worried about the emission of their own vehicles, and they have put plants and stuff and plants and sticks and stuff in their own exhaust in order to try to reduce the emissions. And so they've been really interested in this filter, but they say that they won't be able to use it unless the government tells them to use it, because they will just take it away if it's not enforced by the government. And actually, the government has done tried to do some vehicular revisions, and they're now measuring the opacity of the emission of the cars. But actually, the opacity is not related to its toxicity. So maybe a white smoke is more toxic than a black one. So what they're doing is just not accurate right now, and they are really interested in finding a solution to the black smog. That is the particulate matter, basically.
Okay. So how come your filter costs only $20 and the government costs $1,000?
Yes, because their filter. It's the government, right. Yes, basically. No, well, their filter was a very nice filter, because it did reduce all the chemical gases that are the ones that are very expensive to reduce and to stop or to control them. And so that's why the price was so high, and it was made by engineers from all over the world. So they just brought the guys to Ecuador to work there. So it was the whole project was very, very expensive. We're working in our university, in our laboratories with physicists, and we tried to make one that is more more available for everybody, more affordable for everybody, and it just only reduces the particulate matter, not the chemical. Maybe we can improve later, and then we can have a better filter, but to start, as a starting point, we think it's a very good idea for our city.
Okay. Okay, there's a filter made by a company that Huehua that filtrate nanoparticles that you can't see. These particles can be filtrated with nanomaterials. Can your filter do that, or is this a disadvantage? I'm not sure I understand the question. Okay.
Well, actually, as I said, the filter only reduces the solid particles that can be ionized and can get a stick into the walls, the tube walls. It can't reduce any other chemical particle or any other invisible particle.
Okay. You said someone already tried this, but they failed in their business model. Did you do some research into why that company failed?
Yes, the government
that
did.
Was because of the
yeah,
government.
because of the price. It was very, very expensive. And they proposed the bus drivers, which most of them really don't care very much about it, to buy a filter and to pay half of the filter, which is $1,000. So it was just crazy.
There are mandatory diesel filters in Europe. Do you know how much those cost, and is your filter different from the ones in Europe?
Yes, it is different, because in Europe it's not the same problem as in Ecuador. I think in Ecuador and most of Latin American countries, the problem is the particulate matter and the smog. So our problem is different from Europe.
Okay. Okay, and I guess there is a market outside South America. Have you looked into how you would try to market this globally?
Well, actually, first of all, we want to focus our attention in Ecuador in trying to find a really perfect prototype to present to the government. And after that, and after we've made a lot of research and tests in our own buses, then we can go abroad. But definitely that's our phase 3 of the project, and we will definitely do it because that's a problem that is in every of our countries in Latin America.
And can I just ask, how much power does this use, and does that affect the miles per gallon of the bus for the bus driver?
It works with 12 volts and is the same as a car.
And of course, it will reduce a little bit the power of the bus, because if we put anything on the exhaust or we reduce the diameter of the exhaust, it will reduce the power.
Yeah.
But if the government demands it in every single bus of the city, I'm sorry for the bus drivers.
Have you tried any measurements of that, exactly how much power it will reduce and
Not
what
really.
the
We
loss of
haven't.
miles per
No,
gallon
we
is? I think
no,
that would
we
be very
haven't.
important.
Yeah.
Because the bus driver notices that the miles per gallon have dropped.
Have dropped, yes.
They will take notice.
Yes, of course it will. Yes,
Okay.
we have many tests that we have to keep doing in order to answer those questions. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.